So everybody, thank you for joining our presentation as part of the Intel Global IoT DevFest. So thanks again for joining. I have a few slides to get through, and I have a couple demos that I can do, and we might have a surprise guest or two join us. And I should start with my introduction, which I may as well use some slides for. So let's get right into it. So this is a presentation from Cloud Constable, and we are providing an AI-powered social hub to protect against cyber threats. And as a matter of fact, we're still in the development phases. So we are going to be sharing a little bit of background first, and then we'll get into a couple of little demos, and we can actually show you some of the hardware that we're using, and hopefully we'll even be able to do a little bit of a live demo of the hardware. So first of all, what is it that we're doing? Well, just as a little bit of background, Cloud Constable has entered the IBM Watson AI X Prize. That's a global competition that just started early this year as year one, and it is a multi-year competition. It's expected to end with the 3 finalists announced in 2020. But the idea is, how can AI technologies help people collaborate with people and solve problems that benefit society? So I mentioned we'd been working on this since the beginning of the X Prize competition. And in fact, there was a lot of preparation work that we did even before that, starting in 2016, later in the year. And really the genesis of all this is that we were thinking about, well, how could we help people with some of the problems that families encounter? And initially the idea was especially kids encounter when they start using the internet and smart devices and connected devices. So, you know, in today's society, everybody needs to have a smartphone, and you always want to be connected, and you start feeling withdrawal symptoms almost if you're not. But especially for kids and also, you know, seniors, older people, there are some issues that present themselves. And you know, as we are adults and get a little bit cyber smart, I guess, we're able to deal with some of these issues perhaps a little bit more easily. But especially for kids who are a little bit more naive, it can be tough. And there are lots of issues and threats, especially towards children and seniors, that can be quite difficult for them to deal with. So the concept was, well, could we find a way to make artificial intelligence and statistical monitoring algorithms like the ones used by credit card companies for fraud detection? Can we find a way to bring that all into play and make things safer for people as they are online? And around the same time that we were thinking about that is actually when when we heard about the X Prize competition for AI, and it seemed like a good fit. So we submitted our entry and started the company, and we were lucky enough to be chosen as one of the 144 competing teams, which were announced in May of this year. So since then, we've been working hard building our solution and getting sponsors, and the sponsors and advisors have been helping us to get moving on this solution. So the challenge that I mentioned that we're posing for X Prize is, how do we help people both be connected and be safe and not fall victim easily to cyber threats? Just a little bit of background on the extent of that problem, both in terms of fraud and and sextortion, and a little bit of information as well on the use of the internet in general. So, there have been lots of fraud complaints, especially fraudsters, online fraudsters have a habit of targeting older people because they often have sort of feelings of loneliness. They generally have some money available in terms of savings and so forth. So that's a common threat vector. And indeed, in 2014, which is the latest year we have statistics available, just in the US, as cataloged by the FBI, there are over 2,500 fraud complaints from people 50 and over, and 60 million of losses. And in general, a lot of times those kinds of losses are underreported or not reported. So the real number in the US and globally would be much higher. Also on the sextortion side, there are many instances of sextortion, and we found one survey in particular that was, I think, completed just last year. And among other things, it found that about 56% of youths who provided compromising images in sextortion occurrences were pressured, tricked, threatened, or forced. Many of those cases, the vast majority of sextortion cases, involve the use of some kind of connected technology, smartphones, or other kinds of online interaction. And speaking of that, at any given moment, there's over 750,000 sexual predators online. Moving more into just general use of the internet, this was a little bit surprising to me, actually, but the number of children and young people with psychiatric conditions has more than doubled since 2009, and it seems like one of the factors that's contributing to that is actually social media use. So we've seen a few studies where the findings suggest that the use of social media actually causes or increases feelings of depression. So one of the things we're trying to do with this platform as well is to try to encourage more positive or neutral ways of interacting. Just a little bit of background on the market. I mean, everybody knows what Alexa is, and Google Home has come out a little bit more recently. And these products are selling very well, from what we understand. Although there are some potential security and privacy issues posed by the technology that seem not to be, deterring people from buying. So just some brief statistics on that. We've seen some for Amazon because they've been in the market for longer. We're expecting they've already sold about 3 million devices by 2016, and this year they were forecasting, into the 10 million more sales. And of course, with that comes a survey from Accenture that suggests people like using these things. Younger age groups especially, but they're actually quite popular with all age groups. And at the same time, people are starting to be a little bit concerned about data protection, and people are getting concerned about how do they manage their online data, and how do they control what data goes online. So that's probably a good sign for us. Just in terms of the opportunity, there isn't, as far as we know, an AI assistant solution that offers cyber protection as part of the solution. And the solutions don't currently provide any kind of personal secure ID or authentication. And they don't, collect or correlate third-party behavior. So anybody you're interacting with online, in most cases, the devices aren't even really supporting that, although Amazon has a device that's starting to offer that option. So, basically, as far as we know, nobody's offering fraud detection or those kinds of solutions either. Amazon is starting to get into voice and video content, especially video. And of course, the main current products really are primarily meant to be installed on custom devices. So you have your Amazon devices, you have your Google devices. If you want to use their AI assistant, you need their device. So of course, what are we going to do? We're going to build an AI assistant device, but we also are building the solution based on basically an AI assistant application that could also be deployed on a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer. And the other extension beyond what is currently available is that we're aiming to provide person-to-person communications capabilities. So especially between family members who have devices available, we can connect people with live voice and video calls, basically, between users. Now, in order to help keep people safe, we have to be, we have to be embedded in. We have to have our AI listening in on and recording the conversations in order to be able to detect threats. So that's part of the reason why the AI is offering the service of being a switchboard operator, and it can also listen in on the conversation. And if somebody asks, "Oh, I thought I saw a website and I wanted to see what's on there," the AI would be able to do things like, "Oh yeah, we can take you to that link and show you the website that you're talking about." And of course, to make sure that the solution is secure, we have encryption available as well. What's our value proposition? We kind of talked about that already, so I won't go into that too much here. Suffice it to say that we'll have a physical device as well as an application that can be used by participants, family members and so forth, extended family members to keep in touch. And it'll have, the standard kinds of AI assistant type capabilities. We're adding in, or hope to add in, some additional capabilities around playing music and playing movies and so forth to make it more of a multimedia experience and take advantage of that. So what are we up to now? So there's a couple of main areas that we're working on. One is on avatar development, and that's leveraging the Unity engine to build the avatar and animation. And we're using IBM Watson speech APIs behind the scenes to listen to people, transcribe that into text, and then plug that into the rest of our services. On the hardware side, there's also a lot that we're working on, including sound source localization. The device is meant to follow users or listen and look at users as they walk around a room. So we're doing some work on that. And this is where the device really becomes an IoT device. There are going to be many sensors built into the device, and we will get a look at it in a few minutes. So basically, listening for voices, hearing which direction they're coming from, moving the head, panning and tilting to look at the user is a key feature that we're working on implementing. And then, of course, support for biometric user identification, user authentication, things like Windows Hello, where you can authenticate by face recognition. Voice recognition is something we'd like to add in future, and other similar kinds of technologies, perhaps fingerprints and so forth. And that's mainly important because for our target users, kids and seniors, they may not be so good at remembering passwords. So we don't want to have to always be asking people for passwords. This is where a lot of these features, obviously, we already talked about Intel RealSense, but because we want to be able to support voice and video in both directions, we need to have a lot of power in our sort of brain to power our robot head, and that power needs to include encode and decode of audio and video. And that's what is leading us also to look at the Intel compute card as likely a part of the solution. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Oh yeah, just before we get into a quick demo, we have a couple of technology partners who are working with us, Axiom Audio and Crosswing. Axiom Audio, we'll get into that in a second here, but here's a little bit of a mock-up, an earlier mock-up of the device that we're trying to build. So the device in the picture, the white device with all the stickers on it in the bottom, that's an Axiom Air, so that's their very high quality wireless speaker system. And the idea is that one option for deploying our device is to just put it on top of an Axiom Air or some other similar kind of device, so that you get equivalent functionality to some of the Alexa type products that are out there. And with that, it might be a good opportunity to get to a quick demo. So let me see if we can switch here. Okay, so here's our Unity development environment, and I am just going to fire it up and let you listen. Takes just a moment.
Hello, I'm Cloud Girl, the Cloud Constable household assistant. I'm so glad to be here at the Intel Global Internet of Things DevFest. Right now, I'm just a demo, but once I'm fully functional, it will be my job to help keep you in touch with the rest of your family, no matter where they may be. I'll help with everyday tasks like managing calendars and playing music and movies. At the same time, I will try to guide the family towards safe and healthy interactions while steering clear of potentially harmful threats such as cyber fraud and sextortion. I hope that you enjoy interacting with me.
Looks like we're going to finish early. So this is live, and you should be able to see in the bottom of the screen, if I'm not blocking it, that my voice is being transcribed on the bottom line there. Right now, it doesn't seem like it's getting transcribed very well. Oh, I see. Our transcription is coming through in a little bit of a delayed way here. Anyway, the idea now is that when we're projecting our avatar into our device, you would see more of a close-up shot on the head of the avatar. And this is all going to be customizable. You could have a different character in there. It could be a person, it could be a stuffed animal. Your imagination is basically the limit on that. We do have kind of a background that we've included from some collateral from the X Prize, but that could also be customized as well. So that's our first demo. I was talking about our sponsors, and we talked a little bit about Axiom and their product and why they're looking to us to have an AI assistant made available for it. And then we come to Crosswing, which of course is a robotics company, and they're building, or they already have built, a personal robot that's meant for things like elder care and healthcare scenarios. And here's a bit of a picture of the virtual me from Crosswing. The idea, the concept eventually is that we should be able to put our robot head on the robot as well, and then it would be able to interact with people using the AI capabilities and the display and so forth. And I think as one of our special guests, this might be a good time to bring out virtual me itself. So let me put the video back on. And there it is. Oh, he's wearing a tie today. Emery, are you listening in on this as well? Oh, he's just talking in the background. So there's a tablet on there now, and of course that would be an option. We can install our AI assistant app on the tablet, and you'd be able to interact with the tablet. You'd be able to carry on conversations with somebody else over voice and video. Eventually, when we get our head working, it could go right in that spot as well. And of course, we want to have video on the device. So with that, I think we'll move to our other demo, which I'm not sure we're totally ready for, but at least we can show you, well, there's a couple of things. So first I've got an Intel Joule board, which is going to be the brain. We're still in the midst of integrating it and getting it to work. Ultimately, we want to use a compute card, but we haven't been able to get one yet. So we have this in the interim, and it seems to be working well. We did some 3D printing and put the fan holder on there. We got our fan mounted, so we're all set with that. And the good news is that this fits very well inside the head itself. So here's the robot head. So just for scale, here's our Intel Joule board. And it's going to fit eventually. Now we can't see the head so well. Okay. Here's the general scale. So it's going to fit right in the side here, into the head. And we've been working on getting audio voice tracking capabilities working, but unfortunately that demo isn't quite ready for today. Okay, we have a question. What's your experience been like with Watson IoT so far? Yeah, well, that's a good question. So first of all, what is Watson IoT? There is a lot of Watson IoT capability, and we're not really using them yet. We've been focused mainly on the voice interaction capabilities. So for now, it's just been Watson's speech to text. That is the part that transcribes audio into text, Watson conversation, and Watson text to speech, the part that talks. So the IoT stuff is probably something we're going to get into a little bit later when we have more sensor data coming off the device. And certainly that would be something we want to do in terms of recording our sensor information and being able to analyze it. But as I say, until now, it's been mainly Watson's voice services, and they've been good. I will say there were some latency issues that took a while to get resolved, and the latency was not actually on the Watson side. It was latency due to the way the SDK for Unity was working. So we're trying to do live streaming of audio, obviously, and we don't want any delays, or we want to keep the delays to a minimum on that. So the way Unity works, it's not really meant for live streaming, and basically you have to use a ring buffer to record audio from the microphone in Unity. And there were some challenges with taking our 1 or 2 second ring buffer and chunking it basically so that data got up to Watson as quickly as possible. And then again, having the transcription results come back from Watson, all of that's being done using a WebSocket. So the SDK for Watson has all the capabilities built in. There just was a little tuning required. And actually have been working with IBM's Watson SDK team, tweaking that. And I think they're going to have a release coming out soon to help make sure that everybody can get access to quick streaming without a lot of latency. And I have a suggestion: don't code things in Unity, process Watson outside as a plugin. And in fact, the SDK is essentially a plugin for Unity. So you know there is a bunch of code that works outside Unity in a threaded model using WebSocket and C# code to do that outside Unity. Matt's here. Matt's one of our advisors on the Cloud Constable team, so he volunteered to say a few words. Let's put you on full screen.
All right, look at me. I'm big on full screen. Hi everybody. This is very exciting. You know, when Michael told me months and months ago that he was going to build an Airhead, I said, well, why don't you just hire me?
Now you have to tell them what an Airhead is.
So an Airhead is basically the head that talks to people and that you interact with. Anyway, that was one of my many bad jokes of the day. I was very lucky to have been on the Tricorder XPRIZE project with CloudDX, and I did a lot of the software engineering for them. And that was a pretty exciting project, which wound up kind of winning third place on that competition for the Epic Innovator Award. And really just a great team to work with there, and a great project. And you know, joining this team again, it's sort of the same in a lot of ways. You know, you kind of come on board, and there's a lot of talk and a lot of ideas, and you're sort of thinking to yourself, how is this ever going to get done in this short amount of time? And then you sort of see it happen, and it's pretty exciting. And Michael's done, I think, a really great job of getting all the pieces in place and trying to get the partners together, and he's really made some great strides forward. So we're very excited to watch this baby grow up.
Pretty excited to get some cool Intel hardware working for us as well.
Absolutely.
We didn't get our real sense. Oh, here it is. Okay, so it's an Intel conference, so we should show this. So we've been working to 3D print a temporary mount for this Intel RealSense sensor. We didn't quite get it into the head in time, so unfortunately this wasn't on there, but certainly we will be using a RealSense on the top of the head. And of course, you know, we'll as soon as we get our Intel compute card, we're anxious to test that out as well. And Matt, I'm sure you're keen to do some real IoT stuff because you've got the sensor background as well.
I'm keen to do whatever.
Thanks everyone for participating in the little session, and I look forward to talking with all of you or any of you in future. Cheers.